change comes because of pain. It always comes because of pain. You can be very comfortable living a miserable existence because that's where you're comfortable. And if somebody said, hey, we're going to move you from the middle of the desert to next to a river, most people would go, no, I've lived for 5 generations in this place. Well, yeah, but your family's starving. We're going to walk 2 days and we're going to move you next to a river where you'll have fresh water, you'll have agriculture, you'll have fish. We're going to give you access to all this. And most people will say, they'll tell you no. We'll make them say no because they will resist change. And that's what's happening in AI. And you talked about it in your first statement. People are afraid. They're afraid of information. They're afraid of something changing their lives.
The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you're ambitious, but are manual tasks like admin, lead generation, nurturing, and onboarding holding you back from truly scaling your business? Imagine saving dozens of hours every week, freeing you to deepen client relationships and execute high-impact strategy. Our clients aren't just imagining it. They're saving countless hours per week and doubling their revenue within months. We custom-build AI automation systems that eliminate the grind. From effortless lead generation and nurturing to seamless onboarding, we give you back the most valuable resource, your time, so you can focus on building those vital human connections and driving strategic growth. Stop letting repetitive tasks limit your potential. It's time to build a business that works for you, not the other way around. Ready to unlock your true scaling power? Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free AI audit call today to discover how you can save time and double your revenue. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Intelligence Forge YouTube channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new episode.
From celebrity chef to tech innovator, how ERS Solutions is redefining sustainable sourcing. Welcome to the Intelligence Forge. Frankie Terzoli, thanks so much for joining us today. I've been following your incredible journey and I'm excited to dive into your story. Frank, you have such fascinating career trajectory. From winning Cutthroat Kitchen and appearing on Top Chef to now running a tech company focused on sustainability. Can you introduce yourself and ERS Solution to our audience in your home world? What's the elevator pitch for what you're building?
Emmanuel, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure. I'm happy to share a little bit about myself and a little bit about my story. ERS, Earth Responsibility Score. There's a lot of buzzwords floating around the industries today: sustainability, traceability, social responsibility, responsible sourcing, EI practices, organic, non-organic, GMO, non-GMO, buzzwords floating around and labels that are put on everything. A lot of third-party audits going on. Expense. Every one of these things is a cost of goods sold. Like yourself, you go to the bank and you go to your car dealership and you want to buy a car. And the first thing your car dealership asks you is, well, what's your social security number? Why do they want to know that? Because they want to get your FICO score. Think about ERS as a FICO score for responsible sourcing, traceability, and sustainability for anything. From a automobile part, to a hammer, to a sausage link, to a piece of seafood. Basically what it does is, based on responsible practices, it sends you through an automatic algorithm that gives you a tangible score. This tangible score does not sit in cost of goods sold. It sits into product benefit.
Thanks for sharing that. That's so fascinating. But before we dive into the business side, I have to ask you, what's the most exciting things happening at ERS Solution right now? Is there any recent wins, breakthrough moment that it's particularly energizing you about the future?
Yeah, so AI is a game changer in the world. Before, everything had to be collected, right? We were relying on suppliers. Now AI, with the data that's available, artificial intelligence can scrape all that data and can pull it in from places we didn't even know it existed. So we're able to almost fill in automated scores similar to FICA, right? Where credit card agencies may not be reporting everything, or companies may accidentally omit information. Well, now AI kind of fills in those holes and the gaps, right? So we're getting real-time, real data that's available from a multitude of different auditors, suppliers, third-party certifications, supply chain partners, import-export documents. We're able to get a lot of that information now automatic.
Okay. Wow. That's fascinating. That's really awesome. AI is doing wonders.
It really is. It really has changed the game.
I know. And I think we just need to let the information continue to flow out there, especially for people that are still skeptical about adoption of AI into their business. Right. It's really also fascinating how you have transitioned from the culinary world into the tech space. Let's talk about the operational side of things. As someone who has, you've been trying to bridge the gap between traditional food industry knowledge to cutting edge technology. What specific AI tools and technology are you currently leveraging on at ERS Solutions to stay competitive and deliver value for your client?
Yeah, so I was one of the first innovators, and I call myself the grandfather of food traceability. Back when I was working for an IBM OEM in 2000, and we had just started to touch on the subject of specifically seafood traceability because that was an EU mandate at the time that had just come out. And so we relied on technology, EPCIS technology, barcodes, RFID codes, literally machine-readable codes that would carry the information and transfer it over to the next business partner. It happened first in pharmaceuticals between 2008 and 2011 with IBM and Infosphere, and then it transitioned over into the food world, and that was really the benchmark at the time, and was also what I would consider probably the base model for traceability up until AI.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. The magic wand question is the fun part of our podcast, and everyone gets to answer that anyway. So, if you have a magic wand and you could instantly solve one operational challenge, probably for yourself, for ERS, for any company that you think it's dear to you, what will it be, and why will you want such technology or such AI solution?
Yeah, I mean, if I had my magic wand and I had my wish, I mean, you could I would say that there would be a personal wish and then there would be a professional wish. My personal wish would be for my family and children, obviously. My professional wish would be for the world to be able to be fed, the entire world, with sustainable seafood products and sustainable products, whether it's farming, agriculture, or harvesting, and have enough food to do that and do it sustainably for the world.
My answer to you is, your wish is my command.
That would be amazing. Believe me, my friend, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it will be amazing. It will be amazing. I think you have a good point. I think we should be living on good food. Everyone, we should be living on good food. And I think you have a good one there. Let's just talk about the other side, the bull. How did that come about?
Yeah, it's interesting. So my culinary career was very colorful. I am not what you call a shrinking violet in the kitchen and on the show top. So that's where I got the nickname, and the moniker stuck, and television liked an antagonist, and they really didn't have one in the food industry besides Gordon Ramsay. And so they wanted someone that could shake things up a little bit. And it made for good television, and as you can see, I'm generally a happy person. I go wherever, but I focus under pressure, and I always have. And they used to say, it doesn't matter who's in his way. If he's going that way, you might want to move.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about sustainable sourcing. Let's talk about sustainable sourcing and consumer transparency. From your perspective, you've worked extensively now in the seafood industry. What's the current state of sustainability awareness among both brands and consumers? Meaning among companies and, people consuming the product. Where do you see the biggest gap today?
Yeah, the biggest gap is in transparency, for sure. Without complete transparency, there's no way we can gauge biomasses. We can't make assessments of our ocean. We can't set quotas. We can't monitor and regulate so that our oceans remain sustainable. It's a it's a pretty well-known fact that today 1 in 5 pieces of seafood that are sold are illegally sourced from undocumented, unregistered, or illegal fishing methods. Fishing in foreign waters without licenses, or fishing in EEZ zones where fishing should be a sanctuary. But we have pirate vessels that, from not very good global actors that go into these areas or go into foreign waters and fish illegally, and then bring that to market through some other bad actors, in the world that can aggregate that with some legally caught product, and it gets into the supply chain. So if you imagine going to the store and finding, a piece of wild caught tuna or albacore or something of that nature, 1 in every 5 pieces is illegally obtained. And that's a problem. So if we don't know what we have, how can we regulate it? So I think shedding light on that, there's a lot of AI that's happening in the industry. There's some great products out there, some great global NGO work being done where we're monitoring vessel traffic with AI. We're able to identify patterns of fishing. We're able to monitor different technology that has been voluntarily put on vessels. And then if it hasn't been voluntarily put on vessels, we get satellite feeds. And so we're able to track vessels, and we know where they came from. We know what they're doing. We know where they're fishing. And we can get in there and get patrol boats in the area. And sure enough, find out that these boats shouldn't be in this area and they shouldn't be fishing. So artificial intelligence is enabling all that to happen as well, where we can just point satellites now and let AI do its work and scan through the millions of vessels that are on the ocean and pick out patterns without having to scroll a map like a Google map and look for something. AI can do it on its own.
All right, let AI do its work. Interesting. But my follow-up question to that will be, for consumers, what would they do if the seafood was illegally sourced? How would they know? And can they resist to say, I want to find out, how did you get it?
Yeah, it's a tough one because the best answer lies with the fishmonger. Unfortunately, for the most part, we're very far removed from that supply chain direct link. So we have to rely on our retailers. And as wonderful as the workers and the retailers are, and as hardworking as they are, they just don't have the information. So they can't answer the question. I always tell people, know your source. And it has a lot to do with freshness. Your nose knows, your fingers and toes will tell you the truth about product. All right? You touch it, you smell it, you look at it. It should be bright and shiny. It should never be dull. The eyes should be clear. The gills should be red. It should be firm to the touch. All of those factors go into how long that product has been out of the water, how short the supply chain is. The closer to the source you get, the truer the product you're going to get. Know your fishmonger. Get to know your fishmonger. Find a local market. Obviously, if you're not in a coastal zone, that's a tough thing to do. But fish markets all throughout the United States are importing directly from the coast, and they know who that product's from. And if you allow traceability to take hold, you can have all that information at the scan of a QR code on the product. Know your sources. Get as much information as you possibly can. Become informed. Become educated.
That's true. Know your source. And education is key here. Thank you so much. The ERS scoring system is really innovative, no doubt about that, because it's giving the consumer a simple way to understand complex sustainability metrics through a score and QR code. All right. Can you walk us through a specific example of how this works in practice, the practicality side of things? Maybe share some success story of a brand that have seen real results using the ERS scoring system.
Yeah, so it's very interesting because we know that people buy and they have different reasons for buying. We know that some people really have a hole in their heart for climate, for carbon, for fair labor practices, for sustainability, for climate change, for different aspects, right? And we also have people that are very health conscious, based on non-GMOs, based on 100% organic. We also know the price is a factor. Would I rather feed my family on a limited budget wholesome chicken that may be processed in with sodium tripolyphosphate and water added? Or would I rather give them a bowl of, some sugary cereal, right? Well, I'd rather give them the quality protein that I can afford. So price is certainly a factor. What ERS does is it takes the cover off it and it says, what's important to you is important to us, and it's important to the supply chain. So you have the ability to literally look in the ERS system for what's important with you. Maybe it's no corn syrup, no high fructose corn syrup. Maybe it's natural sugars. Maybe it is sustainability. Maybe it is organic. Maybe it is, 100 different factors, fair labor practices. Maybe those are what's important to you. And you can look at your ERS score on a different product and say, they scored, a 96 out of 100 in sustainability. But when it came to labor, they're way down at 22%, Is it something that, that's something that I don't know if I can stand behind this product because of that. Everything else scored great, but, who's working in these factories? Where's this labor coming from? That may be something, right? That's important to that personal consumer. So those are the big wins that we look at. You can walk down the supermarket aisle. I won't name any brands because I don't want to miss anybody or hang anybody out to dry or give a marketing advantage to anybody. Well, what I will say is you can walk down and you just see the ERS. ERS, it's a score, and it sits there anywhere between 600 and 900. And it's going to tell you exactly where that company rates. And if you think about it, and I always use this for example, you have 3 different ketchups, and they all pay the same slotting fee to be eye level right there in front of you on the shelf. 3 different brands, 3 different ERS scores, 3 different prices. What are we balancing here? We're balancing our ethics, what's important to us against price. We're balancing brand recognition against quality. Maybe it's that time that the brand you've been using that has a 680 score, that's $2.99, gets replaced by a brand that has an ERS score of 825 at $3.19. Is the 20 cents worth it? Is it worth it for you to walk out the store having peace of mind that what you're doing is contributing to a better planet? We know the model works, right? There are several high-end grocery stores. I won't name them once again, but we all know there are several. You walk in there, you buy a dozen eggs, a piece of cheese, and a bag of bread, and you go to the checkout counter, and they're like $92. And you walk out of there with a big smile on your face, pay $92 for a dozen eggs, a piece of cheese, and a bag of bread, thinking that you just did something good for the planet. Where in truth, we're relying on them to tell us what is good. ERS doesn't do that. ERS gives you truth, and it lays it out there for you to see. What would happen in the industry as a whole, if the $18 dozen of eggs that you bought at the specialty market rated lower than your store labeled brown eggs that are organic and range free? What if they rated way higher at $6.99 than the specialty store did at $18.99? What happens to the industry, right? What are we getting? All we're doing is we're buying truth. So we're getting truth. We have the information now to make a responsible decision as a consumer. When we make that responsible decision, right, based on knowledge, reporting, and fact, we have all the information we need to walk out of the store knowing not only did we take into consideration value, but we took into consideration what's really important to us. And that's the game changer.
It's a game changer indeed. Thank you for sharing that. So brilliant. But my question next will be, what is the most surprising challenge you've encountered in trying to get brands to adopt transparency measures? Imagine if there is resistance to open up supply chain practice.
Yeah, that's the biggest challenge right there. Apparently, and I've been in the food industry for a lot of years, more than 20. And apparently, a lot of people still think that their supply lines or supply network is secret. It's not. It's not, especially not with AI. We know where everything came from. We know what farm it was picked from. We know what ship it was on, the container number. We know everything, right? We know everything about that product, probably more than the people that process it do. But apparently, supply chain transparency has been such a guarded secret for so long from competitor to competitor in the industry that now it's become almost taboo. I'm not going to tell you that I bought 20 loads from Rodriguez's avocado farm in Michoacan, even though I know you bought 40 loads of avocados from Rodriguez's avocado farm in Michoacan, right? But I'm not going to tell you that, and I'm not going to expose it because those are my avocados and it's my secret.
Yes.
So that would be one big pushback. I think the other big pushback is enabling and educating brands that look at something like this as another cost of goods sold, where it's not. It's actually, it moves over into advertising, it moves over into product value, and it becomes part of product value, not part of product cost. If I can show a competitive edge based on my responsible practices over my competitor, should my product not demand a premium?
I guess this problem can be tackled, and I think you're doing a good job in also doing that. But let me ask you, I know with what you're doing, how is the current market shift towards sustainability consciousness? How is this affecting ERS Solutions' growth trajectory? So are people seeking you, asking you how can they use your system? Or are you still probably trying to educate people or brands on how to do this for the benefit of all?
Yeah, so it's really an unusual conundrum. We thought that FDA 204 rule, which requires a 24-hour turnaround in case of any food recalls, that the whole supply chain is laid out for the FDA. We thought that that rule, which has gone into effect, would have enough teeth to it in regulatory to drive the industry to change. In reality, it doesn't. Unfortunately, it was the wrong execution of the right idea. The idea of transparency, the idea of safety and food safety are paramount, absolutely. But the check and balances that were put in and the triggers that call that information into effect are very, very rare. So rarely is it, and it only happens in a tragedy, right? And we shouldn't be doing this because of a tragedy. Yes, a tragedy occurred. There was listeria or something else in a supply chain. Products got pulled from the shelf. The FDA got their information, and consumers beware. That's not how we should be operating in today's world. The way we should be operating is in a positive manner to say, look, my product is so pure and so clean, and it's done so right that I'm willing to show you so that you can walk away having confidence. There's so much misinformation out there that, I hear people every day that say, salmon from a farm come out white and then they spray them orange. Well, that's just not true. That's just not true. I can tell you that there was a farm that raised salmon without beta carotene in their diet, and their fish did come out white because it didn't have the natural pigment that they get generally from krill or small shrimp, which is part of their diet, which adds to their color. I could tell you that happened. Oops. When you have 100,000 pounds of white salmon, that marketing didn't go over very well. But I can also tell you on the other side of the coin that there's a lot of tuna in the industry that you see in sushi trays or other things that are gassed with carbon monoxide, which is the same thing that comes out of the back of a bus. And that's not legal in Europe, but it's legal here in the United States. And it does turn the tuna from brown to bright red. And there's colorings added, and there's gas added, and the bacteria is destroyed. But at the same time, bacteria does have a function in freshness and quality. If it smells bad, it's bad. There's no doubt about it. Your nose knows, right? Your eyes will tell you. Your nose will tell you. Well, what they've done is they've tricked the senses. They've turned it bright red so your eyes say, wow, this is beautiful. It looks like a big red gummy bear. And your nose can't smell anything because it's neutral. and it's been neutralized by a gas that's a poison that comes out of the back of a bus. It's the same gas that'll kill you if you happen to fall asleep in your car with your garage door shut. So it's a poison, but we allow it in our food because it makes it look better, and that's just not right. So we have to go to truth positive answers. And the truth positive is, this is what I do. These are my practices. We're really proud of how we source, how we process, the product we grow or the product we buy. We're very proud of that. And we want you, as our consumers, to understand and acknowledge that you're getting the best product that we can produce for you. And when we change the mindset, it's a shift. And you know that change comes because of pain. It always comes because of pain. You can be very comfortable living a miserable existence because that's where you're comfortable. And if somebody said, hey, you know, we're going to move you from the middle of the desert to next to a river, most people would go, no, I've lived for 5 generations in this place. Well, yeah, but your family's starving. We're going to walk 2 days and we're going to move you next to a river where you'll have fresh water, you'll have agriculture, you'll have fish. We're going to give you access to all this. And most people will say, they'll tell you no. Human nature will make them say no because they will resist change. And that's what's happening in AI. And you talked about it in your first statement. People are afraid. They're afraid of information. They're afraid of something changing their lives, something that can have a positive impact. Yeah, there can be negatives associated with any change, right? But do the rewards far outweigh the risk? 100%, especially if you're talking about the ability of artificial intelligence to better our lives, right? To better everything about them, whether it is the food you eat or the job you work at or the school you attend, the knowledge you want to obtain, whatever those goals are, you know, we can use artificial intelligence for the betterment of society.
It's true. That's true. Very, very true. We have to look at the positive side and take advantage of the capability of AI. Thank you so much for sharing that. You mentioned in your LinkedIn profile that each new positive change or certification comes with significant cost to the manufacturer. And this cost could not be transferred into product value until now. So this sounds like a major pain point that you are solving. So maybe you can elaborate on how this challenge impacts brands' willingness to invest in sustainability and how it affects their bottom line.
Yeah, so third-party audits, it's a great question. It really is. You know, most companies now, in order to get into marketplace, are required to do a lot of different things. Some of those things are third-party audits. Well, a lot of them are third-party. Some of them are internal audits. Some of them are internal processes. But with third-party processes, in order to get into the global supermarket supply chain, you have to have certain certifications. In order to be graded as sustainable, you have to have certain certifications. Those certifications cost money. So before your product even goes to market, you may have anywhere between $500,000 and $15 million in expenses before product one is sold, just to get that product into the marketplace. All that falls under cost of goods sold. And we'll throw out a crazy example, right? A peach, maybe the farmer gets paid 10 cents for the peach. We'll say 10 cents a pound for the peaches that he harvests, he grew, and he picked. And he brings them to market. And there's transportation costs. That has an expense. And that's going to a manufacturer of canned peaches. Well, obviously you have the canning costs, you have the manufacturing costs, you have the labeling costs, and you have the advertising costs. But aside from those costs, in order to get peaches into the supermarket, I had to spend $500,000 on third-party audits. So before can number one hit the shelf, I had already paid $500,000 to get a can of peaches into the marketplace. Wow. Even though I have
expensive.
Different products in the marketplaces that have different certifications just to get it in there. So how do we offset that? Well, the only way to offset it is in product value. Product value, I've got the best peaches. I got organic peaches, right? Another certification, organic. Truly organic. There's another $100,000 to be certified organic, or 50,000, or whatever the cost happens to be at the time with that certification body. So how do I give value to my peaches? Well, the only person that can give my peaches value, as you know, in a capitalistic society based on supply and demand, is the consumer. What are they willing to pay for it? If I go to market and everybody's selling their cans of peaches for $2.50 and I go to market at $8 peaches, I don't think I'm going to sell that many peaches unless I can show everybody that there's $8 worth of value in this can of peaches. And how do I do that? Well, the only way I can do that is to be transparent. So that's where we bridge the gap between perceived value and true value.
Thank you so much for expanding on that particular topic. Let's go into the growth, especially your ERS system or solution. Is there anything currently holding you back from maybe scaling, growing, because you have a very good solution that is solving very good problem that needs to be solved. But why are people, or let me ask in a different way, are you seeing a lot of people, using your system currently? If not, what are you doing to see that a lot of people actually invest in this solution and maybe take it to international market?
Yeah. Industry always plays follow the leader. It's a very interesting dynamic, right? If my competitors do it, I better do it. But I'm not going to do it until somebody tells me I have to do it, because I'm getting my market share. I buy X amount of this and I sell X amount of that, and I make X amount of bottom line at the end of the year. And my competitor, because he has more land or has more market share, he makes his dollar, I make my dollar, and we get along as happy competitors. Fear is always a driving factor, right? What are they going to find? Especially with my system. What are they going to find? What's my score going to be? Right? It's kind of like when you get that letter from the IRS and you put it on the table. You're like, I don't want to open that. I don't want to open that. I don't want to open that. They're going to want money. They're going to want money. I don't know if it's $25 or $2,500, but they're going to want money. Maybe I'll open that tomorrow, right? And then that's what the industry is doing, right? Like, what are they going to find? What's my score going to be? I don't think I want to know, because ignorance is bliss. And I'm making my profit now, right? I'm making my profit now. And now it's the little companies that don't have anything to hide, that don't have a market share, that are building their brands. Those are the ones that are attracted to ERS, because they want to knock somebody off the pedestal. I've got, you got the big four in peanut butter, and, I'm just a little shop. We make, 5,000 jars of peanut butter a day, which sounds like a ton of peanut butter, right? But in the global scale of things, that's not even a half a truckload, right? So
that's true.
I want to knock somebody off. I got one contract and a couple of, independent markets, and one contract with one grocery chain that's in 4 states. And I want to take my product national. So what's gonna be a differentiator for me, for my product? What's gonna tell the consumers that my product is better than the big 4, and you need to give it a try? And here's why. You get one big domino to fall on the board, and all the other pieces fall down.
Wow. Okay. Sounds interesting. So if somebody wants to really make use of your solution, some of our audience may be interested, to say, well, I need to know more. I want to hear more. I want to actually even know if this system could work for me. Where can they find you?
And you can get a hold of us at responsibly.org. You can get a hold of ERS on LinkedIn, or you can go to my personal site, Frank Terzoli, and get a hold of us anyway, through any one of those means. And we'll be sure to, sit down. We take all our business personally. We want to see responsible companies grow and succeed. That's our main goal. We want to see a sustainable earth. We want to get one step closer to using that magic wand so that everybody can be fed in a wholesome way, that every child can get a nutritious meal, that every adult can afford to feed their families and that feed their families well, right? Feed their families in a wholesome, nutritious, and sustainable way that aligns with their values, and bring in equalize that for the planet, and also have a planet that's worth giving back, worth giving to our grandchildren, to their children, to my children's children's children. Pass on a world. For better or for worse, whatever we do every day affects the world that we're going to pass on to our children and to their children.
For sure.
So make make smart decisions. And whether it's carpooling to work and you have to go 3 blocks out of your way to pick up a colleague and save a little bit of carbon from going into the atmosphere, if it's that, or if it's community farms, or growing tomatoes in your backyard and doing it with your kids and doing it organically and having not only the benefit of a wholesome product, but also the story and the experience that you shared, right? Become informed, become educated, grow so that you can ask the right questions when something occurs. Why is that pineapple that's not organic $1.29 and that one $3.50? Why is that? Well, that's an informed question, right? And there is an answer to that question. There is an answer, but be informed about it so you can make a proper decision. ERS isn't going to answer that question for you, right? But there is somebody who has that answer. I happen to know it, but I mean, it's just because I have pineapples on the system. But yeah, there's a difference. Yeah. There's a difference, It's yield to plant. It's a yield to plant ratio, and yield to plant equals yield to acreage. So how much acreage, how much tonnage can I harvest out of an acreage that's organic, and how much tonnage can I harvest from an acreage that's not? And it's all based on acreage, water consumption, everything. I get less production of a better product from the same amount of acreage than I do from the acreage where I grow it, just, traditionally with pesticides, etc. I can make more grow. I can make them grow bigger. I can make them heavier. I can make them fatter. I can make them sweeter. I can make them all kinds of different things, right? And I can grow more of them, so I can sell them cheaper because they don't cost me as much to make. And that's very simply the answer. It's not a complicated one, but there is an answer. Yeah, but then they have to weigh it, and you have to say, do I want the pesticides possibly in my body? I don't know. Where's my water source coming from that? I don't know. Or do I want something that's organic, that I know the water's filtered? And, and that's a choice. That's a personal choice, right? Should I give my kids fresh pineapple in their lunches? Yeah. Probably. It's a great food. Should I give it to them? Well, I can't afford organic, but is it better to give them fresh pineapple? Or is it better to give them the little plastic cups full of pineapple that has been pasteurized and soaked in high fructose corn syrup? And why are all these chemicals listed as ingredients? It's a pineapple. Right? Shouldn't it just be pineapple in a cup? No, it can't be, because pineapples don't stay in cups fresh. But you can cut fresh pineapple and you can put it in a Tupperware and give it to your kid. Right? So it's all based on choices. Yeah, it's all based on choices.
Yeah, it's based on choices. And we all have choices to make. And it has been a very incredible, insightful moment with us today, especially with everything that you've shared. But one last question that I think our audience would love to hear is a piece of advice, maybe to a brand, to consumer, in regards to what you're doing. What piece of advice do you have for people out there?
What I always tell people is, we learn to read, and then we read to learn. And when you're buying when you're buying products, read the ingredients. If you can't pronounce it, you probably don't want to eat it.
What? Say that again.
I said, when you read the ingredients, if you can't pronounce it, you probably don't want to eat it.
Wow, are you for real?
Yeah, read a box of, whatever, cookies, cereal, potato chips, whatever that's in your grocery store. And if you can't pronounce something on it, don't put it in your body. When it says it contains 4 ingredients and you look and it says water, salt, coconut, and coconut oil. You go, well, I could read all that. And then you go to the next one, which is a competitor, and it's $1 cheaper, and it has, dextrose this and mono this and poly that and cycling this. And you're like, what are those things? Well, if you don't know what they are, don't eat them.
Wow.
There's my piece of advice
Incredible.
for today.
If there's any takeaway from everything you shared today, I think it is this. And I'm going to pay attention next time I'm buying anything to read the ingredient. And truly, if I cannot pronounce the word, I better look for the alternative.
It'll make you live a little bit longer.
Well,
And
yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I do too. And I know our audience will definitely get a lot of value from everything that you have shared today. I want to thank you once again for coming through. And we want to wish you well, your solution well. And we also want to believe that as you continue to push your solution out there, more brands will accept it, they will adopt it. And maybe one day, your wish will come to pass and we will be able to feed everyone with good food. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Emmanuel. It's been a pleasure. That is my wish for the world, that we can all live healthy and happy and in peace. So God bless. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for sharing with me, and thank you for allowing me to share with your audience.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You didn't quit your day job to become a full-time admin assistant. The Intelligence Forge podcast is sponsored by Permasize AI Forge. At Permasize AI Forge, we know you didn't start your business to spend 60 hours a week on paperwork, chasing leads, and managing endless admin tasks. You started it to build something meaningful and serve your clients. But right now, you're trapped in the day-to-day grind instead of growing your business. What if I told you our clients are reclaiming 15, 20 hours per week, increasing their revenue by 30 to 50% within 6, 12 months, and finally getting their lives back? We don't just automate random tasks. We build custom AI systems that eliminate the bottlenecks choking your growth, from leads generation to lead, nurturing and management to project management to client follow-ups. Stop paying for an expensive, frustrating manual system. It's time to upgrade to strategic automation. Visit PermasizeAIForge.com and book your free business transformation strategy call today. Discover exactly how much time and money you're losing to manual processes and how to get both back. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Intelligence Forge, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode packed with game-changing insights. Your future automated business is waiting.